course, I want to thank Tim for the wonderful meditation. I asked Tim last week if he could do a meditation for us this morning and take us to the world of dreams. So thank you for that, Tim. It was just perfect. Okay, so maybe
hey, Sarah, let me say a few words about you.
Yes.
I met Sarah through a mutual friend. We were studying alchemy and she was studying it separately. And then Sarah joined our dream group that Afton and I are in. And then from there, Mastery Circle, Afton told her about that. And I have never seen a person move so much evolutionary wise, spiritually in their life as Sarah has. She has completely shifted into a spiritual path from really what was before a totally economic, financial sort of path. She's following a dream. Very few people do that. I mean, really, truly follow their dream and even give up the chance of making a lot of money that was offered to her so she could follow her dream. So it's really special. She's a special person. She's sweet, she's bright, and she's doing a master's degree in all of this transpersonal psychology and everything else. I'm jealous. I wish I was studying that course. So with that, Sarah will bring us down a new road into dreams.
Thank you, Tim. That means so much coming from you, especially. Thank you. Well, what we're doing today is not so much of a talk kind of presentation. We're actually going to watch a film, which is about 30 minutes. And then hopefully we'll have some time to discuss afterwards. But before we do that, I want to share something that's deeply personal. And I don't talk about it much. So back in 2016 or beginning of 2016, I was at the height of my career, had just accepted a new position and was my first day on the job. And I woke up with a stiff neck and I didn't think much of it. But as time went on, it turned into a pain that was just all over my body. And it quickly became so paralyzing as far as my life went that, I had to stop going to the office. I had to work from home. I could not stand to sit for too long. We would go to see a play or something and I would have to leave early because I just couldn't sit. The only position I felt comfortable was the standing, which is not very comfortable for long anyways. And I became really depressed because I tried everything. I went to every sort of doctor and alternative medicine and nothing worked. And so I became really depressed. There were times that I really collapsed on the floor of my bathroom, crying because I just didn't know what to do. Then I started seeing a Jungian analyst. Some of you know her. And the first thing she said to me was, something in the psyche is trying to get your attention. This pain that you're having is not physical, as you know by all the doctors and tests that you've done. And she referred me to the dream group that Tim just mentioned. She was like, there's a spot open, go talk to him and hopefully you'll get in. So I did, and I got in, and that's where I met Tim and Afton and so many other wonderful people, or a few other wonderful people. And about a year after I joined this dream group and I started working on my dreams and writing them down and working them in the group, I had a dream that the woman who raised me, there was a woman who was, she lived with us and she was sort of my mom's right-hand person and she helped raise us. And she came to me in the dream and she told me that everything was going to be okay, that I was going to be okay. And I worked on this dream in the group, and this group is so good at extracting the medicine from a dream and feeding it back to you. So I worked on this dream in the group, and I went home and I felt that I needed to do something with this. Well, we always do something when we work with the dream. We do something with it, some sort of a ritual or creative writing or any sort of creative expression, and then we come back and share it with the group. So I did that, and I did a painting, and I'm gonna show you guys what this painting looked like, because it sort of marked the beginning of my healing journey, and it marked the beginning of this path that I am on. So this is the painting that I did. And it's basically just hair holding me and protecting me from all the elements. And it was really incredibly healing for me. It was a very powerful experience just doing the painting. So as you can imagine, when I watched this film that I'm about to show you, I was deeply touched by it. And it really shows the healing power of dreams and how one can really, well, here, I'll read you this quote from David Blum, who's, the film is about him. And he says, "It's an amazing fact that at a time of dire crisis, people often unexpectedly find themselves supported by a power that makes it possible for them to cope." And that's really what happened for me. And that's what this dream did for me. So let's watch it together, and then we'll have time to discuss afterwards. Can you guys see my screen fine?
Yes.
Okay. And you can hear fine?
Yes.
Okay, perfect.
Hello, I'm Yo-Yo Ma. Beethoven's music can mean many things to many people, but who would have associated this theme with dachshunds coming into a dream to my good friend David Blum to help him cope with cancer? David, who's an outstanding musician, has never had a drawing lesson. He did discover that when he painted images of his dreams, no matter how simply, he just felt better. His inner world, as frankly revealed in this extraordinary film, is a very personal one, but it has a message for us all. It reminds me of the miraculous power of the human spirit. Sooner or later, we will all have to deal with crises and the question of our mortality. We all have deep resources in our own ways, and if we listen and trust to them in difficult times, they can bring us comfort and transcendence.
For a long time, I found it helpful to give attention to my dreams. And over the years, when a dream has made a strong impression on me, I've made a painting of it using oil-based crayons. It usually takes me about a day to finish a picture, not longer, because I'm so excited by the colors and images that I want to get it all down on paper quickly. My name is David Blum. By profession, I'm a symphony orchestra conductor and a writer on classical music. 9 years ago, when I was 52, I was diagnosed with cancer. After surgery and radiation, I was in remission for 6 years, and I thought I was in the clear. But 3 years ago, lab tests showed that the cancer cells had returned. The question was where. I knew that the situation was serious, and I was frightened. I had support from my wife, Sara, from family and friends, but support also came from an unexpected quarter. Recently, my beloved long-haired dachshund, Papageno, had died at the age of 16. Strangely enough, he now came back to me in a dream. He and other dachshunds entered a church in a forest, took up stringed instruments, and played Beethoven's 13th Quartet, music of health and joy that brought me reassurance in this time of trouble. Perhaps because music has always meant so much to me, it's often been a part of my dreams. Some days later, I made this picture of the dream in the enthusiastic way I used to draw when I was 12. When one is faced with a life-threatening illness, one is fearful as a child might be fearful. Sometimes it's best to counter such fears with childlike needs. Sara and I feel good to have the pictures surrounding us in our bedroom, and the room has become a kind of sanctuary for us. It was never my intention to show these pictures to others, but in the process of sharing the cancer experience with our friends, I felt it only natural to share the paintings with them too. It's an amazing fact that at a time of dire crisis, people often unexpectedly find themselves supported by a power quite beyond their ordinary experience that makes it possible for them to cope. Any powerful image that arises spontaneously from within, no matter how irrational it may seem, carries a creative potential. I had such an experience 9 years ago when my cancer was first diagnosed. According to the scans, the risks were extremely high. The night before my operation, I had a dream in which a soulful woman came to my bedside. She gave me 2 dappled eggs she had taken from a golden eagle. From each of the eggs, a golden child was hatched. One was named Waves and the other Wings. Energy flowed forth from these children, consisting of all that is most beautiful in human feeling. When I awoke, I spoke to Sara rapturously of the waves and wings and of the wonderment of our love. I still remember babbling joyfully as I was wheeled to the operating room. If the blessing of a helpful spirit could be conveyed spontaneously to someone in deep dread, it was conveyed by the magical woman on that night. I should explain that I'm a pragmatic, down-to-earth person, not a seer or a mystic. I'm a modern skeptic without religious preconceptions. All of this doesn't matter when I'm gripped with an image from a dream of astonishing power so that it plants its authenticity upon me. This process intensified greatly during the last 3 years since the recurrence of cancer. This soulful woman, whom I call Mary, is not new to me. She first came to me in a dream when I was 17. I was then in Paris for the first time, living by myself and quite alone. In the dream, a young woman led me through wheat fields that swayed in the wind to the music of Beethoven's Pastoral Symphony. There was a certainty about her, an inevitability in her stride. I felt that it was my fate to be guided by her. The picture, the first of my paintings, made 10 years after the dream, suggests in a primitive way something of her knowingness, her resolve. But the marvel of her presence vastly exceeded my artistic ability. I had no idea then what Mary's goals were or the power of consolation she would eventually bring me. Over time, I've come to realize that this feminine presence is not merely a personal experience. She's found in legends, in literature. For Dante, she was Beatrice, leading him from purgatory to paradise. Goethe spoke of the eternal feminine, Jung of the anima, the feminine form of soul. She's come to me in dreams in many different transformations. 7 years had passed since I first painted Mary, years of growing fulfillment. Mary's wheat field was now ripe. It was time for me to be a full participant in the harvest. Sometimes when I make a picture, I find myself being led further into the dream, as if it wanted to be continued. As I was working on this picture, it seemed that Mary drew herself as a peasant woman cradling a child. I can't fully interpret these pictures. The dreams are larger than I am. They explain me more than I can explain them. Nor can I explain their special ability to clue me into values the conscious mind had neglected. We all know of fairy tales in which an animal mysteriously appears to help the protagonist out of danger at the critical moment. Let me introduce you to such an animal. His name is Alfonso. I acquired him when I was 6. He led a peaceful life on a shelf for half a century. But after my recurrence of cancer, he started to come into my dreams, guiding me with the assurance of a wise old man, speaking with a distinctive voice of his own, with an archaic turn of phrase. Some of my doctors recommended a second major surgery. Others counseled caution and further testing. I felt trapped in a medical labyrinth. One night, I dreamed that I was alone in the midst of a mountain valley. To my amazement, Alfonso's voice was heard. "Trust," he said, "and thou shalt not be alone." I knelt in prayer. From far off, a motorcyclist of death came roaring toward me. Alfonso appeared, raised a golden spear, and said, "God will act." Instantly, the motorcyclist was destroyed. The hand of God descended from the clouds. God will act. What a grand concept. But could I believe in it? After all, I hadn't any idea who or what God may be, or whether God exists at all. And on whose authority was I accepting this pronouncement? That of a toy dachshund. But the dream had startled me, and it seemed inherently right to support my childhood animal when he came on my behalf to battle the forces of chaos. I've since learned that the wonder of Alfonso's statement is that it can be interpreted on many levels. Healing isn't confined to getting well physically. Just as Mary has long been with me, images of a masculine deity, biblical or pagan, have broken through to me in dreams long ago. There's a saying from the Delphic oracle in ancient Greece: God will be with us, whether he is called or not called. Some would see these as religious figures, others perhaps as archetypes. I don't know if they have their origin in the inner world or in some region outside of myself. The main thing for me is how they act, how they move and relate. The dreams don't bring me an abstract spiritualism, but my own myth with its peculiar cast of characters who sometimes talk to me and often set tasks to hold the forces of dark and light in balance, to complement an outer action with an inward one, to trust to the movement of energy in the dream world, even if it sometimes seems random and fragmented. In a dream, I was nothing more than a solitary boatman. An Eskimo poem came to mind when I made the painting. The great sea has set me in motion, set me adrift, and I move as a weed in the river. The arch of sky and mightiness of storms encompasses me, and I am left trembling with joy. While the doctors were trying to assess my condition, the dreams were basically ignoring the outer situation and setting their own agenda. I was simultaneously undertaking 2 journeys, one medical, the other spiritual. During every medical procedure, I let the Dachshund Quartet play for me in a waking vision. The dreams themselves took on something of the aspect of a medieval pilgrimage. It began when I dreamt of the Church of Vézelay in France. The Holy Grail was present. A crusader's boat was setting forth. While I visited an ancient city, the letter Z suddenly appeared like a bolt of lightning. In the Eastern Roman Empire, the Greek letter Z was taken to signify eternal life. I walked by a row of Venetian palaces. As I awoke, words came to me. I came, I saw, I passed. Now that I no longer needed to conquer life, perhaps I was ready to become a novitiate. The city was now Parma. A Franciscan monk met me at the baptistery and led me through the Italian countryside. At the summit, we found ourselves in ancient Egypt, where a boat was being prepared for a voyage up the Nile. With some difficulty, I deciphered an inscription on the boat which read, "The voyage shall be radiant." I cried out, "Is this reality, or is it only a dream?" The monk confidently led me on. A cancer patient's spiritual journey is interrupted by innumerable medical tests. The question is always how to cope. One night I had a dream in which I was told that I had an appointment with the wise old dog the next day at 1:15 p.m. When I awoke, I thought, why on earth 1:15 p.m.? Then I realized that that was the appointed time for a crucial MRI exam that I needed to take. So when I entered the machine, it was less as a medical patient than as a friend of the old dog. I let the conscious mind will itself into the imaginative world. And indeed, old Papageno did greet me. But then he transformed himself into a young dog playing in the fields. A village appeared entirely inhabited by dachshunds. At night, the great mother dachshund came down from the starry sky and spread her ears over the valley to protect any dog who is ill and afraid. Now, whenever I have difficulty sleeping, Sara tells me that I am a dachshund in one of the blue beds, and I gradually sink into slumber. In a dream, as I knelt before a totem pole, Papageno again appeared. Not only was this slow-to-ground creature now elevated to the skies and endowed with the golden wings of an evangelist, but his chest bore a mirror that contained an image of Mary of the wheat fields. She pointed the way towards the pyramid and sun. Papageno beckoned to me to join Mary and move with her. But before I could follow the dog's command, medicine intervened in the form of a surgical biopsy. The cancer was found at last, but in a place that was inoperable. We decided to hit it with my lifetime limit of additional radiation. One morning, I found myself alone in my hospital room, undisturbed. I thought this would be the time to accept Papageno's challenge to step into the magic mirror. The question was, how can a hospital room turn into a wheat field? I thought I might try to conduct Mary's music to myself. Mary immediately appeared. We wandered arm in arm through the fields. Sara was there too. Then, with amazing ease, Mary lifted me above the valley. At first, I held on to Sara's hand. But as I was taken higher into the sky, I was forced, against my dearest wish, to let go of it. This was unbearably painful, so painful that I couldn't even draw it. As Mary and I glided among the clouds, I felt burdenless, without anguish. But it wasn't time yet for me to leave the earth. She took me back down to the fields. Mary then told me that just as the medical radiation would infiltrate my body, her radiation would infiltrate my mind. She let the intense rays of her light pass into me. I was bathed in her luminosity, shaken to the core of my being. The medical radiation has come and gone, but hers has remained. Meanwhile, there were new medical challenges to be met, during which time I had more than one nightmare of having to go down into a dark cellar, the prospect of which terrified me. I recalled that when I was 12, I had made a drawing of a curiously similar cellar, in the foreground of which I'd put a ladder descending into a yet deeper pit. I knew I'd have to go down that ladder someday, and now I entrusted my imagination to Alfonso and asked him to be my guide. He donned golden wings about his ears to light the way. As badger hunters, dachshunds are used to going into the deep. We arrived at a mysterious grotto where Alfonso took up his spear and pointed at the dark sky. A swirl of golden light emerged, in which Mary and her child resided in all their simple majesty. Alfonso said to me, "She is waiting to illuminate your inner journey." Yet how can she enter into my life? I asked. She is transparent and I am concrete. When she reveals herself to you, you become more transparent and she more concrete. You thus share in each other's worlds. How will I know that she will be there for me in a moment of peril? Acceptance cannot reject. The many dreams of a mother and child seemed insistently to point the way towards rebirth, some sort of continuation of spirit beyond life. The question is not whether I believe in rebirth, but in what the dreams have to say about it. And the dreams had something extraordinary to say. About 6 months ago, after a period of stability, my cancer began to spread significantly. Sara and I shed many tears about this. It was a really anguished moment. But we decided that our best, our only course, was to follow the guiding spirits in my dreams and have no more resistance to them. In the week after our frank acceptance of death, I had 3 dreams about birth. And then came a whole series of dreams about the renewal of life presented in symbolic form. In one, Mary arose as Venus from her shell, transformed herself into a rainbow, and bequeathed the dew of her love to mankind until disappearing into the night, only to be born again the following day. This revivifying circle through dark and light can be conceived in different time dimensions over the course of a day, of a lifetime, of an existence beyond life. Alfonso was there too, in the shape of a constellation among the stars. In a dream, I stood with Sara on a rock in the middle of the ocean, with simultaneous views of the sun as it rises and sets. In the crisis we now face, Sara and I must accept the cycle of nature's renewal in the larger context of life and death. We have different tasks to perform. Mine is to let go of life. Hers is to hold on to it. From the dream's central vantage point, we can understand that letting go and holding on are not opposites. The spirit is a continuum. One of the principal benefits of knowing that your life will end soon is to act on your desires. So we decided to go down into mankind's most ancient sanctuary, the original cave of Lascaux in France, the Sistine Chapel of prehistoric art. When I descended into the cave and saw its walls and ceilings covered with astonishing paintings of animals, I felt swept along by a tremendous life force. It was as if I had entered into Cro-Magnon man's dream, and he had entered into mine. Some days later, I dreamed that I myself was one of the Lascaux animals, a horse with deer's antlers, and that I had ventured forth from the cave to have a look at the modern world. I was ambling cheerfully down London's Regent Street, doing no one any harm. People responded to me with some consternation. Well, that's just how I feel. As the body becomes more limited, the spirit expands. At the end of all, I've turned into a prehistoric horse deer. Lately, my daytime hours have become increasingly inhabited by Mary and my other dream figures. In a waking vision, she came to me by the sea as a black-haired Roman girl. We pledged ourselves in marriage. I asked Alfonso, how can my love of Mary, who will soon take me into her arms, be also a love for Sara that will protect her when I am gone? He replied, Mary is greater than David. Her love penetrates him and becomes his love of Sara. Thus, David and Sara will always be together. In a waking vision, a water wheel appeared, the axle of which combines past, present, and future time. Alfonso was there, replenishing the wheel with water drawn from the stream of spirit that transcends time. He explained further. Love is the quality of spirit that gives meaning to the movement of time. Love is a gift of eternity. It unites souls that would otherwise be separated. A deer drank from the stream, as in a medieval mosaic, the soul thirsting for God. Mary was present. I asked her, why must I endure so much pain and grief? She replied, think not of why you endure it, but of how you endure it. Be prepared in sorrow and in faith. How can I know that in death I'll not fall into a void? Foolish boy, she replied. Do you think that what you see on earth is all there is? That the Creator made no more than this? Don't you know that the reality around you is merely a preparation for a greater reality? These stones will crumble, these trees will die, this sky will change, all you see will disappear, but I shall remain. How can I forsake thee when I am the truest thing thou hast ever known? She came to me in the wind and we kissed. She permeated me with her spirit, and my presence allowed her to enter into the world. We were not two, but one essence. One evening, recently, I stood by the seashore and spoke with the spirit of Alfonso. As the sun sank into the ocean, he produced his magic spear and turned the sun's golden rays into an amber city beneath the waves. My dream pilgrimage had brought me at last to this place, a simple Mediterranean village harmoniously spiraling up to its church. Mary with her child awaited my arrival. All was enclosed in a replenishing rainbow. Why is it, I asked Alfonso, that despite the complexity of life, the simplest things carry one's truest experience? He replied, simplicity prefigures eternity. How can I compare my earthly joy with the unknown yet to come? The unknown holds the key to the box of treasure. Could the box be empty? Not if the heart is full. When will my earthly existence end? It has already ended. Thou hast stepped onto the bridge. The waves flow on. Must I depart, joining them in the endless unknown? Unknown to thee, known to God. One of the fearful aspects of death is its vast autonomous power. But the dreams and visions have an autonomous power of their own. I feel that I'm meeting death with some measure of equality. But is it death? Shelley wrote, "Death is the veil which those who live call life. They sleep, and it is lifted." A friend recently tried to reassure me that miracles are always possible. I told him that I gladly accept one, but I doubted it would take place. But then I caught myself and said, in fact, a miracle has taken place.
All right. So now the floor is open. Any comments, stories, dreams you want to share?
Okay, well, I'll start off. It's what an amazing journey through his dreams and imagination and consciousness and prayer and revelation. It's just it's all, there's death, there's life and heaven, if you will. It is all there. It's all encompassed. And I was just wondering, this, it seems to me that his what he experienced helped him in his medical journey. Can you, after this film, is there anything you're aware of, Sarah, that happened to him afterward, how he was benefited or anything?
I'm not sure. That's a good question. I'm not sure how his journey went after this.
Okay, Whitney, then Afton, then Michael.
He died at age 62 in 1994. He wrote about Pablo Casals, and he was a well-known conductor.
Thank you. Michael, please, and then Afton.
I guess my only short question is just from your preamble, Sarah, just how did this approach to drawing, to expressing your inner feelings with art, how did that impact you? I mean, was it a liberation for you to be able to express this?
It was definitely a very healing experience that I went through. And I did my painting over several days. And then I also set it somewhere where I could see it for several days. And it was incredibly powerful because I feel like that energy got released. And I also felt supported by this being who has, passed on. And I knew that she was there, and I knew that I was going to be okay. And the message of the dream and the medicine that was in the dream really carried me through at a time that I was really desperate and I needed it. And it's been a long journey, and I'm much better now. And I still have the pain. The pain comes and goes. It's my reminder to stay on this path. It's my guide, and I welcome it now, and I know how to navigate it and dance the dance.
Thank you. Thank you.
Afton, please.
Well, this was incredible, and I think it's a gift to us all. And although he did it for his own healing, it seems to me that in creating it, in addition to being obviously an incredible musician, that this was a big part of his purpose in life, was to, the energy and the focus to bring it to life. Like I know myself and Mary Grace and some others working on our books to give to the collective. This is really giving an incredible gift to the collective, not just about illness, but how a non-religious person finds a spiritual journey through illness that they never would have had otherwise. He never would have gone into a spiritual journey with himself without the deep, long, painful, dark night of the soul journey through the it was just magnificent. And a little extra is Yo-Yo Ma goes around the world creating all kinds of things for all kinds of purpose. He has a bigger purpose in connecting people. And for any of you who follow him, he goes into schools, he unites the world in group songs. And here he is. I'm sure he had some part of helping this come out to the collective as well. So I give a great celebration, appreciation. And Sara, thank you for bringing it to us.
Mary Grace and then Linda, please.
This was really such a deeply meaningful film for me personally. I don't know, some of you may not know, I was born Linda, and I went from Linda Schwartz to Mary Grace because of an experience I had with Mary. And I was never Christian, never Catholic, and yet I started having visions from her. And each time I've had the mystical experiences I've had, it's been right on the heels of crushing, devastating experiences, not health issues like his, but what for me was dark nights of the soul. So I look back on all of it, and I think as a human being, would I have chosen any of that? No, absolutely not. And yet, where I am now, I look back on that and I think, you know what? It's a small price to have that kind of depth of connection and heart. So that's really an amazing piece, Sara. Thank you.
Yes. Linda, please, and then Tim.
Thank you for showing this, Sara. I remember one line that said, acceptance cannot hold regret. And I know that whatever's coming up for me, it's about being afraid. I must heal myself.
Thank you. Tim, please.
Oh boy, there were so many universal themes and teachings in this. I mean, they just went on and on. He mentioned he became more illusory and Mary became more concrete. And this illusory thing is something that the ancients have talked about, how illusory we are, and but how we take ourselves to be so solid. And then he merges with the deity. That's the whole Tibetan thing. The deities aren't out there, they're really inside. And so you merge with them and you contact what's inside. It's not some God out there. That's another universal theme. And I was just thinking, here's Mary with the child, and she is also Kuan Yin, and she is also Green Tara, and that feminine presence that shows up again and again in many forms as compassion. And then the value of animals. Oh my God, his sweet dog takes him on these journeys, protects him, lights the way. Animals are just magical in dreams. And then finally, the cycles, he had to let go of life because he saw the bigger picture of the Ouroboros of life and death and life and death again from a bigger picture. And all of this reminds me of Emily, those of you who know Emily, who has just generated lots and lots of dreams from the psyche and from the unconscious, and they are all rich and they all have lessons. Thanks, Sara, for sharing this.
Beautiful. Thank you. Questions, comments? Paul, please.
I just want to say thank you, Sara. It was so beautiful. A song from the Beatles came to me during it, and in my hour of darkness, Mother Mary came to me, speaking words of wisdom. Let it be. So thank you.
That's beautiful, Paul.
Hmm.
Yeah, what really amazed me about his dreams were the wisdom that was communicated to him through his dreams. I mean, where does that come from? That was really fascinating to me.
Amy, please.
I found it fascinating on so many levels. Thank you. And I loved that he cataloged his journals of, volumes and the dates and stuff. Like, I'm going back to all of my journals and I'm going to be labeling them and making a library, because therein lies our own synchronistic history. And thank you so much for sharing this. And I'm so glad you listened to your body pain, and it's just that nudge. Thank you.
Any other thoughts here? Well, do you want to kind of wrap things up, Sara? This beautiful presentation with a word.
Sure. I just wanted to thank everyone for watching and listening to my story. And yeah, and as Tim said, it's all just a dream, this life too. And it's really, really powerful to remember that every day and every moment, that this is all. I think there's a quote from Schopenhauer that says, and I'm paraphrasing, but it says that this life is a dream dreamed by a single dreamer, where all the dream characters dream too. And that's really powerful. It's been really powerful for me to remember that this life is a dream too. So thank you, everyone. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sara.